invited to the event tonight. Thank you all very much for crowding. All watching the live stream right now. Let's make some noise for everybody watching at home on the live stream. Outstanding job making everybody feel at home. We're very glad to have our other friends in the media here. Glad to have all of you, and especially the folks watching at home. And even Gary Wheeler, the head of the Soybean Association, is watching tonight from Bangkok, Thailand. So, right out of downtown Jefferson City. My name is Scott Faughn. I'm the publisher of the Missouri Times. We're very excited to welcome all the longtime Republican candidates here for the first debate of what will be an exciting 2016 season. A little noise. For a reason, because we wanted a place that was fun and enjoyable. This is a fun process and a fun time. We'll bring out Lieutenant Governor Kinder, former Speaker Hanaway, and businessman John Bruner in just a few moments. Newcomer to the party, Eric Greitens, told us he intends to be here tomorrow to file as a Republican, but couldn't be here with us in Missouri's beautiful capital city this evening. But for those of us that chose to be here tonight, make no mistake, this is a debate. This is not a forum. This knows no agreement, not to hurt anybody's feelings, step anyone's toes. In case you couldn't tell from the playlist and the music and the setting, this is not a safe zone. There's no safe zone here. Before we begin, though, I want to do a couple thank yous. I want to thank the co-hosts of the debate. First of all, candidates.The, foremost political site in Missouri. Thank you for being here. Missouri Right to Life, Dave Clements, Susan Klein, and Jefferson City. Missouri Alliance for Freedom, led by Ryan Johnson, Jeremy Kane. And also the sponsors who help make this event possible: the Missouri Realtors Association, National Popular Vote, the Missouri Majority PAC, St. Louis Chamber of Commerce, Advantage Capital, the Spooner Law Firm, Jack Spooner, Grow Missouri, and the Missouri State Council of Firefighters. Give them a big round of applause. And I have to, or this would be all a fraud, thank the one person in our group who truly was the person that made this happen, Rachel Herner with the Missouri Times. Before we begin, though, we want to have the national anthem, and we were very lucky to for us to have Rachel kind of found it on accident. I think it's going to be wonderful. Teresa Mello, a 2015 graduate of Lincoln University's Gospel Choir. Big round of applause. Let's get started. Tired in the light corner of the room. get started. We want to now bring out our candidates, starting with businessman John Bruner. Lieutenant Governor Peter Kinder. And former Speaker of the Missouri House, Catherine Hanaway. I want to thank all three of you sincerely for being here this evening, and all the crowd, and we'll get the rules out of the way quick. They're very simple. The debate will consist of 8 questions decided upon in conjunction with the co-host. There'll be 2 minutes for opening and closing statements. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer each question. If the candidate's attacked, the moderator's discretion. We've got a little help up here. We'll give the person 30 seconds to respond. A timekeeper will be here to keep time in front of you with a digital clock here. The timekeeper will be the most influential man in the Missouri political media, John Combest. And there you go. And we helped out by the finance chairman of the Missouri Republican Party, Jack Spooner. Now, before we'll get into our opening statements, before we do one more time, let's give a big cheer for our candidates and everybody watching at home. Speaker Henry, we'll begin with you with your opening statement.
Good evening. I want to thank the Missouri Alliance for Freedom, Missouri Right to Life, and the Missouri Times, and all the other sponsors for hosting this wonderful forum this evening. And maybe more importantly, I want to thank all of you for being here and being a part of this discourse. I do think that this is the most important election of our lifetime. Our government has grown to be way too big, and it's broken. If the government doesn't do anything else, it should keep the public safe, and it is failing even at that today. We've seen Ferguson burn, protests at the University of Missouri, murder rates in our 3 largest cities growing out of control. And all the while, what has our state's chief law enforcement official done to defend this state? Absolutely nothing. And in case you've forgotten who the chief law enforcement official in the state is, it's Chris Koster, the Democrat running for governor. If I'm elected governor, I'll support law enforcement. I'll bring conservative solutions to our state's toughest problems. And I know it won't be easy, but as a former federal prosecutor, I put over 4,000 criminals in jail. I prosecuted corrupt politicians, faced down some of Missouri's most hardened criminals. And if I get the chance to be your governor, I'll face down the trial lawyers. I'll defeat the labor bosses. I'll take on and defeat the special interests and the liberals. But I'm going to need your help. So please join me in this movement to make Missouri safe and strong again. Yeah!
I join Catherine in thanking all of you and thanking our sponsors. I think in choosing a Republican nominee for governor, you need to look for a trusted conservative. A trusted conservative who's actually delivered wins for our team. A trusted conservative who's actually won elections statewide in the state. Who's figured out how to put together a majority. Who overperforms in the St. Louis metro area, even among some Democrats and minority precincts, but who still wins 109 counties by stitching together that conservative majority across our state. I think you need to look at the records of each of the candidates. In looking for a trusted conservative, you need to look to the candidate who is the only one in the race. I am the only one in the race who bears on my wall, the Missouri Right to Life Defender of Life Award for having passed the first bill banning partial birth abortion in our state. The only candidate in this race who is rated at the highest rating of A+ by the National Rifle Association for having delivered the right to carry concealed weapons to Missourians over a Democratic governor's veto. The candidate who's been in the trenches with activists all across Missouri the last 3 years on property rights issues in the Ozarks and throughout our state, and in the battle against Common Core. You ask the activists across Missouri, they will tell you it is I who have been standing shoulder to shoulder with them, who've been in the late night meetings, sending and receiving emails after 11 p.m. and before 7 a.m. with other activists. And who is the one who stood up to the Nixon administration on Ferguson, on the University of Missouri foolishness that went on there? I have been in the trenches in all these fights, and with that record of pride to point to, I humbly ask for your support.
Mr. Bruner. My name is John Bruner. In the Marine Corps, we had a personal challenge to either lead, follow, or get out of the way. I'm here tonight to earn your trust and confidence, to lead you fine folks up the hill, to take back our republic. Now, I bring with me a level of confidence that is needed in this state at this time in our history. Not only do I have experience, leadership experience in the military, I have leadership experience at a small manufacturing company. We were able to turn it around and make it the largest in our industry in America, bringing billions of dollars of business back to this great state, creating thousands of jobs, but more importantly, tremendous opportunity for people to move ahead and live out their part of the American dream. I've also had the privilege of exercising my First Amendment rights, religious liberty, be involved in Christian missions here and around the world, because I don't put my trust in government, I put my trust in God. Now, with all these attributes, I have some values that run deep, my friends. These values are a lifetime constitutional conservative. It started back many, many years ago in 7th grade with Barry Goldwater. It continued in college with the Foundation of Economic Education with Leonard Reed. It continued on the debates on the college campuses, and it continued on the workplace. And it continued helping conservative causes and conservative candidates for decades. I feel privileged to be in this battle with these deep roots and broad experiences. You know, at the end of the day, it all comes down to something called, if you will have me, lead the way.
Why don't we just start right to the quick? We'll start with former Speaker Hanaway. Why are you the best candidate to defeat Chris Koster?
You know, Chris Koster's won 2 elections. No politics. And I am the only former prosecutor on this stage and all politics and no prosecutor. Who has he prosecuted in first? Who knows the worries of every Missouri parent? I've also been successful in
record. And because that record crowned with success in 3 statewide elections, no other candidate race can say that. Having put my case before the people of Missouri, I've come from behind 3 times in all statewide wins. I've been outspoken, knitted together a coalition, a majority that, as I said, overperforms in St. Louis among constituencies that usually don't. 114 counties across the state, because I everywhere and fight for every vote. Conservative principle. It's a winning record. It's a proven record, and I commend it to you.
win this election for governor. As an outsider, as a person who has served in the military, I have a compelling difference because every is different. And this is different in the that they've always been different. But my position, this compelling difference against a lifetime constitutional conservative, against a trial lawyer versus a Marine. Now, we've done some state to the citizens of the state. That trial general gets 24% of the votes. That business person, that Marine, gets 56% of the votes. We win, they lose.
Our next question is reaching back a little bit. Barack Obama's election, the passage of Obamacare, changed the nation and the Republican Party. What actions at that time inspired you to do, and what did you do to turn the country back around? We'll start with Governor Kinder.
On the afternoon that Congress passed the bill, I was watching my anger level rising in my office a couple blocks from here in the Capitol. And I went out that afternoon on the steps of your state capitol and said, if Attorney General Coster will not vindicate the rights of the people of Missouri to direct their own health care, if Jay Nixon won't either, I will file my own private lawsuit. I don't have 230 lawyers in my office. I have a staff of 5 for 6 million Missourians. But I went out and undertook that battle for Missourians against the Obama administration, against the federal government invasion of our precious healthcare freedom on my own, and undertook to raise the privately the six-figure sums it took to pay those lawyer bills. That indicates that I'm a fighter for Missouri, I'm a fighter for you, and I will continue that record if I'm honored by being elected governor of this state.
Well, I ramped up an election campaign for the United States Senate to go right into the heart of the beast. It was a challenge, an incredible challenge, because I'd never run for public office before. I knew where my heart was, my will was, but one thing I did not take into consideration: Harry Reid. Harry Reid came in from the flanks with millions of dollars because the numbers showed that Claire McCaskill was upside down. All they had to do is get rid of John Bruner, and they were going to recapture that important Senate seat. Unfortunately, they did. So what does a guy who's knocked down on the ground do? You stay down and crawl away, or you get back into the fight and keep fighting. And that's why I'm here today.
Well, I can tell you what I didn't do. I didn't do what our absent opponent, Eric Greitens, did. I didn't get in the car and go to the Democratic convention and instead, I was putting criminals behind bars, raising a family, and working in the private sector. Like you, I was disgusted as I saw our nation become less secure, as our economic and moral strength declined, as our God-given inalienable rights were eroded. I haven't run for any office in 12 years. I wasn't sure I would ever again. But after 8 years of Obama-Coster, I knew that something had to be done, that it was time to lead to try to fix this mess. So I'm running for governor because I know that governors are the last line of defense against the federal government. I'll oppose Obamacare, I'll oppose Medicaid expansion, Common Core, and whatever kooky idea they come up with next, including importing a bunch of refugees from terrorist countries into our state.
Bruno, our next question will start with you. The consensus among policymakers is our state's transportation system's in disarray. Would you make toll roads part of your plan to fix it?
Well, first of all, I heard a candidate's name over here. Does that candidate get a rebuttal, Mr. Greitens?
Show me, State. You gotta show up and show me.
Hey, the answer to that question is no. The citizens of Missouri have spoken. No more taxes, no more fees, no more toll roads. But here's what I will do. It takes an entrepreneur, a business person, to get into state government, to look for the efficiencies, to look for the waste. That's what I've done in my business for 3 decades. You don't pass price increases out. You find ways to deliver a better product, cheaper, more reasonable, with better quality. Second of all, we're going to bring jobs back to this state. We're going to grow our revenues. And I would recommend to the legislature that 25% of those additional revenues that come into our great booming state be earmarked for a transportation fund. Because I believe we can be in the heart of America, the distribution center of America, right here in Missouri.
No, toll roads will not be a part of my transportation plan. And you know, MoDOT has sort of become like a stray dog. You know, you feed it once and it keeps coming back to the porch for more and more. Just in the last decade, MoDOT's gotten stimulus money and bonding money, and now it's threatening not to even maintain our roads unless they get a tax increase. I've got a 3-point plan to address our infrastructure needs. Number one, we do have to make sure that every single penny that MoDOT gets is spent efficiently. Number two, I was the first candidate to propose that we take the highway patrol and move it over to general revenue. That frees up $200 million a year in gas tax money that can be spent on roads. And number three, perhaps we need a shift in our taxing priorities. Perhaps we should reduce the income tax and prioritize roads over our general revenue expenses. With that, we can prioritize infrastructure without raising taxes 1 red cent.
Toll roads are not a part of any plan I have. I will say that Missourians will not invest more money into transportation, or for that matter, I don't believe in anything else in state government, until state government re-earns a reputation for fiscal integrity and tight-fisted budgeting. This governor has abused his powers. He has played games with the budget. He has held vital constituencies such as education hostage. He has spent almost $6 million on a new airplane that a state audit showed was not needed. I would sell that airplane. I would do other economies in state government from my office on down, and I have done that. Each year I've been lieutenant governor. I have returned money unspent out of my office budget back to general revenue.
Wow.
John Ashcroft was the most conservative governor this state ever had. When he came in, the fuel tax was 7 cents on the gallon, the lowest in the nation. When he left, we had added 10 cents on the gallons to the 17 cents it is now. And the reason is that reputation for fiscal integrity.
Speaker Hanaway, each session, the Republican majority passes new laws meant to protect Second Amendment rights. What is left to do that the Missouri state government can do to secure gun rights?
Well, it's vitally important that we stand up for gun rights, and I'll just give you one real-world example. Very recently in Springfield, Missouri, a woman named Katie Claxton was sitting in her car with her kids when a man approached the car with a knife. And thankfully, her husband had a concealed carry permit and was able to chase him off. Even our best first responders can't be immediate responders. We have to have a governor who's willing to stand up for your right to protect yourself, your right to resist the tyranny of the federal government. That's why when I was Speaker of the House, I supported, we passed, we overrode the governor's veto and made concealed carry the law in the state for the first time in our state's history. We also passed protections from frivolous lawsuits for the manufacturers of ammunition and guns. I'm the first candidate to come out for constitutional carry as well as campus carry. Missouri has a reputation for being pro-Second Amendment. I will protect and promote that reputation.
Ronald Reagan said, freedom is always one generation away from extinction. And that encumbers upon each of us to be vigilant, to stand strong. We need a governor that will stand strong on these constitutional values, not just the Second Amendment, but all the amendments, particularly the 10th Amendment, particularly the first. We can go right on through that. But folks, not only will I stand strong and on guard, defending our Constitution, but I need your help. I need your help electing a great Attorney General to stand with me. And together we will fight against those regulators. We will create a zone around Missouri that says only liberty will reside inside this great state. And together we will do every matter we can to defend on our Second Amendment rights. And with a great state legislature, together all three of us will units of government, and we'll get our courts behind it as well, and we will fight the Second Amendment all the way.
And some of these candidates running for office this year, you've got to wonder what they'll do. But you know what I'll do. You know what I'll do as your governor. I'm the one who delivered right to carry over Democratic governor's veto in the Senate when they said I didn't have the votes. I produced the votes. The media was stunned. I've actually achieved concrete victories on this for our side and for the people of Missouri. Of course we should have campus carry. I've been vocal in promoting campus carry. Let's make the left defend why these places should be gun-free zones, shooting galleries for the bad guys, with a guarantee of defenseless, unarmed victims. Let's make them defend that. And yes, we should move toward constitutional carry. It's working in other states, it can work here, but I am the only candidate in the race who can go up against Chris Coster with the A+ rating from the NRA.
Our next question will start with you, Mr. Bruner. For several years, pro-life Missourians have encouraged economic development, child-driven research that is consistent with protecting unborn human life. As governor, how will you help the business sector in Missouri grow while protecting life in the biotech age? And how will you seek to enact that protection through the legislative process?
Well, let me make my position perfectly clear. I stand with life, and I do not compromise. Now, I do not believe there's a compromise between science and standing on the principles of life, because we've already seen in core STEM research tremendous advancement that we've had here in leukemia, sickle cell anemia, over 80 different diseases. The research is just beginning. There's huge opportunities here in the advancement of science. My friends, you never compromise life to save a life. You never compromise the Constitution to save the Constitution.
I stand with life as the only candidate who has the Missouri right to life defense forward. Here's what I think, where I think we can stand on solid. Taxpayer funding. No taxpayer funding. It should be a flat prohibition, and it should be on which we all can unite. In return, I don't think it's a major move toward it. Passes a law making the research a crime. That is a rough compromise and, if you will, a ceasefire for both sides, in which research can continue at private institutions, but it will in no case be funded by the taxpayers at a public university or any other public institution. And on this, the news media of this state has too often misled us, as has Attorney General Coster, who wants to make you believe that all Republicans are against science. It is not so. And the compromise I outlined is one we can defend and one that is sound.
The right to life is the first and most important right. Without it, we'd have no other rights. I'm 100% pro-life. As Speaker of the House, I passed the first 24-hour waiting bill for abortions, the first ban on public funding for abortions. As Governor, I'll defund Planned Parenthood. Let me be crystal clear on this statement. I do not support embryonic stem cell research. I do support adult stem cell research. We're doing great things in this state with adult stem cell research. We have some of the finest institutions and researchers. But Chris Koster and the liberals want to relitigate whether or not we're going to have public funding for embryonic stem cell research. We're not going to have over it again.
You're no stranger to criticizing Governor. But one thing the entire state seems to be criticizing.
Yes, on Sunday, November 8th, when this controversy really began to erupt, I called my team, which I don't usually do. Morning. So we got to get out of state on Monday. Case. I would be looking for curators and a university leadership and a football coach who would say there are no strikes on our football team. Scholarship athletes are privileged students with free room and board, free tuition, the best meals on campus in their dining hall, and in exchange for that, we expect you to suit up and play football, and if you don't, you have jeopardized your scholarship. It's that simple. I wanted university leadership that would call those players bluff. Far better to have paid the $1 million penalty if we had to forfeit the game with BIU that Saturday than to incur the losses we've incurred ever since. And they're mounting, and they were reported more in the millions today.
Speaker Hanaway, you started. I recall you started a bus tour with Mizzou not wanting their logo on your band bus, and I think you ended it vice versa.
Well, it is time to put an end to the lawlessness at the University of Missouri, and it's pretty simple. It's time for teachers to teach, scholarship athletes to play, and students to be able to exercise their First Amendment rights without having a professor call in the muscle. I will only employ curators who are comfortable with that agenda. And if I had curators there now who weren't comfortable with that agenda, I'd be calling for their resignation. But we have to have a board of curators that better represents the state. That board of curators is full of Jay Nixon's lawyer buddies. We need doctors. We need people from business. We need community leaders. We need people who understand that they are the adults as the curators, and the students are there to get an education that you, the taxpayers, are paying for in large measure. As a mom, I look at that institution of higher education, and I just hope that the future brings brighter days.
We'll come back to maybe the most important question tonight to the folks here in this debate. Will you cut taxes?
John,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I'm ready to cut taxes.
No, I'd love to hear it.
No, the University of Missouri is a tragedy, not just for the university and its students and its alum, but for all Missourians. It casts a shadow across our great state, and it all comes down, my friends, to leadership. No leadership in our governor, no leadership in the Board of Curators, no leadership in the administration. All of my life, I have been finding and identifying great leaders and putting them in the areas of responsibility with clear accountability, no gaps, no overlaps, set goals, and off we go. We've been very successful. I will do that again. You know, the attention has been focused on this, I call unfortunate professor. But, you know, she is a symptom. She is a symptom. She's not the cause. The cause is lack of leadership. And we need strong executive leadership to bring great leaders back into our state.
On this week in Missouri politics, we're just going to take two, so we'll try that here on the live stream. Will you cut taxes?
Yes, I will cut taxes, I will modernize and reform our tax code, and that's just one point of the 5 points I've laid out for bold innovation to get the government out of businesses' ways so they can grow in Missouri. Number 2 would be to sign right to work because it's good for Missouri and it's good for workers. Number 3, regulations are crushing our businesses in this state. On day 1 of the Hanaway administration, I'll freeze all new regulations. I'll give you just one example of how overcomplicated we are. The barber regulation in Missouri is 10,000 words long. The Book of Revelations is 10,000 words long. Surely we can tell a barber how many combs to have in fewer words than it takes to describe Armageddon. Yeah! 4, I will take on the trial lawyers and pass meaningful tort reform and appoint conservative judges. 5th, and finally, we've got to enhance technical and vocational education so our students are ready for the jobs of the 21st century.
You always look for an opportunity in a business to make it more efficient. Of course I'll look to cut taxes. Of course I'll look to find a better value for the citizens across Missouri. I've done this for 3 decades in my business. You look for efficiency, you look for waste, and you bring that down to the bottom line and you turn that back into a roads or infrastructures, or you give it back to the citizens across this great state. Second, we'll bring business back to Missouri. That's where our revenues are going to come from growing productive businesses. And we'll do this through tort reform, regulatory reform, and right to work. I know how to do this job, my friends. I can see it, I've done it. I'm willing to do this for all the citizens of Missouri, and it can be done. We can have a more efficient state, have a better and more productive state, and we can get the job done without a problem, just with executive leadership with experience.
You bet I'd be looking for taxes to cut, and I would start with our income tax, which is too high. I applaud the majority in the legislature for delivering our first tax cut in a century over Governor Nixon's veto. It is a contingent tax cut, that is, on revenues growing by $100 million a year, and it won't take effect at the earliest till next year. It's a start. It is a start. But we have a tax cut code that was designed, I guess, in the 1930s, and the income tax is too high. Not only is it too high at 6%, but it starts at too low a level of income. And that's where I get my reference to the 1930s, because the 6% highest rate starts at $9,000. That is too high. And we know that many of our most talented Missourians are no longer Missourians. They have chosen to live in Florida or Texas or one of the other states that has no tax on income. We are surrounded by tax-cutting states. Kansas, Arkansas, even Illinois went a major tax increase, and we've got lapsed, and we've got to get with the program.
For our last question, I want to ask you what you've done in your career that best shows your conservative values. Mr. Bruner.
Well, I've had the privilege to begin to defend our conservative values by serving as an infantry platoon commander in the United States Marine Corps. I'll never forget the day I raised my hand to defend the Constitution. Second, I've had the opportunity to participate in our free enterprise system. And the pursuit of happiness, and the pursuit of the happiness of so many fine, wonderful associates with thousands of jobs and opportunities, and see them move forward and expand and live their dreams. These are 2 wonderful areas of supporting those conservative values. And of course, I've also led with the conservative value of our First Amendment and our religious freedom. And what a privilege that has been be involved in helping to build churches and orphanages and distribute the word across this state and across our great land. Those are the conservative values that are important in my life. They made a difference, and I want to continue to make a difference and serve as your next governor.
I would say it's my home record of defense of the right to life of the innocent unborn, the Second Amendment rights of all of us to defend our homes, our families, our property, delivering wins on those, passing the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which was an effort that called together all Jewish denominations and people of other creeds to say, we want to place in our statute the highest level of protection for religious liberty. We have that on the statute books due to my efforts, but it's probably our Constitution to guarantee our freedoms against assault from the feds and keep on coming at us. So it's been one of these battles after another. You name a conservative battle over the last decade and more, and I've been in the thick of it, delivering wins for our side while persuading enough voters at 3 statewide elections that I could get the job done and be trusted with high public office.
The thing that best represents my conservative values is the fact that our 2 young children have accepted Jesus Christ as their Savior. My husband and I have tried to instill in our children Midwestern values and a sense that opportunities come by the sweat of your brow. For too long, the liberals have tried to divide this country from God and taught people that every problem should be solved by the government. This entitlement culture has to end, and it has to end at every level. We have corporations in this state thinking they're entitled to more than $500 million in tax credits. We're state in the country at moving people from welfare. Sadly, we have a very small group of legislators who think they're entitled to use the Capitol as their playground. As your governor, for a change in the culture.
Yeah! I'm going to close the statement with Governor Kinder. For our closing statements, we'll start with you, Governor Kinder.
Trusted conservative. In 3 statewide elections. Throughout my time, I have campaigned for other Republicans to build our majorities in every part of the state, urban and rural. I have taken delivering victories for our side. People who disagree. I have gone into the urban core. I have gone into minority neighborhoods. I have earned some of their support without giving up this conservative principle and still carry 109 counties. I have returned money unspent out of my office budget every year I've been your lieutenant governor. I have been a good steward of your resources entrusted to me. And I think you have a right, my fellow conservatives and fellow Republicans, to expect in your nominee for governor that he or she will be a cheerful, confident, optimistic leader who stays on offense and takes the game to the other side. Because in this game, they're either moving the ball on you or we're moving the ball on them. And I prefer to stay on offense. I will be that cheerful, confident, optimistic leader, taking our case all over this state and knitting back together the majority that returns us to the governor's mansion. With your support, I humbly ask for your vote this fall. Thank you.
A little over 13 years ago, half a world away, a woman I will never meet Nira. You see, she chose life. She chose not to have an abortion. And as a result, we have a 13-year-old son. If I have the privilege of being your governor, on the day I take that oath of office, I'll have the Constitution in my head, my hand on the Bible, but in my heart, a moment that involves him. Coming back from Eastern Europe, going through their court system, seeing the worst ravages of communism ruin those countries, we came back to the United States, we went through all the paperwork, and when we came through customs, the agent said to my husband and I, "Congratulations, your son is an American." Now, I'd heard that word a million times. I'd never heard it with my heart the same way. Because I knew, because of the sacrifices that generations had made for us, that he would be able to pray as he wanted, to live as he wanted, to work as he wanted. The reason I'm running for governor is I want to pass along those same opportunities to the generations that come after us. And it doesn't pass through the bloodline. It passes through sacrifice. That's why we all need to come together to make sure that we defeat the liberals in 2016, that we restore the constitutional freedoms of our country. So I humbly and urgently ask you, join in this movement to make sure that we pass along those freedoms to the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. God bless you all. Thank you very much.
My friends, I'd like to leave you with three thoughts tonight as we're at this pivotal point in our state's history and our nation's history. First of all, the job description of the governor. It is to stand with liberty. It is to defend our freedoms. It is to defend life. It is to defend our United States Constitution. You need to have someone you can trust to be in that line of defense. We have seen it, my friends, in the path to win. We have compromised with candidates who will not stand for those values once they're in office. Second of all, we need competence in the office. We need executive leadership. We need someone who has proven in the past what they've been able to accomplish. And I've done this, my friends, with great confidence. It was a rocky road. It was a challenging road. I've seen the ups and downs. There were times where you just pour back into the book of Psalms and pray for help and guidance and support and get back in there, put one foot in front of the other to fight another day. But I know it can be done. This is not about me, my friends, and it's about you. It's about reclaiming the American dream for folks all across the great state. Just as I've done in my business, I want to expand that statewide. And finally, the third, incredibly tough, challenging times. We don't know what the next 6 months are going to bring from the Obama administration, from the void in the Supreme Court. But I would suggest that we need to make an appeal to heaven. That without our trust in God and depending upon His blessing and His hope and His promises, we will not make it and survive this fight. And so in closing, my friends, I don't close with God bless America, but simply may God continue to shed His grace and mercy in America. Thank you.
We want to thank all of you for joining us. We want to thank all of our candidates. We want to thank the hosts, JohnCoppS.com, Missouri Rights Alive, Missouri Alliance for Freedom. I want to thank KMOX and KRCG for being here. Join a special This Week in Missouri Politics this week. We'll have surrogates from all three campaigns, as well as Mark Reardon on to break down the debate and cover the race. And most importantly, we'd like to invite everybody here to come back. It's in Jeff City. Come back. We're going to launch our app. It's going to be an all-new way to cover and follow Missouri politics. And lastly, let's hear for the three candidates here tonight. Thank you.